After nearly a decade away from movie theatres, Star Trek is preparing its return to the big screen with an ambitious new project that promises to explore the franchise's deepest roots. The last theatrical Star Trek film, Beyond, concluded the Kelvinverse trilogy in 2016, leaving fans wondering when they'd see the Enterprise crew on the silver screen again. Well, while streaming services have kept the franchise alive, obviously, with Discovery, Strange New Worlds and other series, proving that there's still appetite for Trek content, the cinematic experience, well, it's remained elusive until now, but production momentum is building. Paramount Pictures made it official at CinemaCon 2024, confirming the untitled Star Trek Origins story will begin production later this year for theatrical release in 2025. The studio has tapped Toby Haynes to direct a new film that expands on the Star Trek universe, with Seth Grahame-Smith penning the script, while J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot is producing it. The creative team brings impressive credentials to the project. Haynes brings a notable track record to the project, with directional credits in Andor, Doctor Who, Sherlock and Black Mirror, including the Star Trek homage episode USS Callister. His work on Andor particularly demonstrated his ability to handle political intrigue and character development within established science fiction universes, so that sounds good. Seth Grahame-Smith's involvement adds another layer of intrigue. The new Trek movie script by Seth Grahame-Smith, Beetlejuice, the Lego Batman movie, could be approved by the end of the year, and the movie could begin shooting in the first half of 2025. Well, we wait for news on that one, but fingers crossed. Recent reports suggest the script development is nearing completion, with claims that the script is done. Paramount is almost ready to move on the project, and that filming could start within, as I say, the first half of 2025. So let's take a look at the timeline and setting revelations. While details are scarce, the new film is said to be an origin story that takes place decades before Abrams' 2009 Star Trek reboot. This positioning is particularly clever because events occurring before the timeline split, created by Nero's time travel, would be part of both the Prime timeline and the Kelvinverse continuity. So, the early 23rd century setting provides filmmakers with significant creative freedom while respecting established canon. This era remains largely unexplored in Star Trek lore, positioned well after Enterprise but decades before the original series begins. With few documented canonical events during this period, writers can develop original characters and storylines without contradicting existing Trek history. The Federation's foundation story. So, based on available information, the film will focus on humanity's early contact with alien species and the political maneuvering that led to the formation of the United Federation of Planets. Now, this approach positions the movie as more of a kind of political thriller, more than a space adventure kind of thing. So, exploring the diplomatic complexities of building a galactic alliance, really. The rumoured alien nation connection suggests Vulcans might serve as the primary alien species dealing with integration into human society. Now, this Earth-based approach would allow the film to examine prejudice, assimilation, and the social dynamics that eventually led to the multicultural federation we know from later series. Now, this focus on political foundation rather than exploration gives Origins a unique angle in the Star Trek universe. So, instead of boldly going where no one has gone before, audiences could see the careful, complicated work of building alliances that made all that bold exploration possible. So let's take a look at the casting and character possibilities. No casting decisions have been announced for the film, and given its timeline placement, audiences should expect entirely new characters rather than younger versions of Kirk, Spock, or other original series figures. Now, these characters might have connections to established Trek figures, but they'll be following their own paths through this formative period. One significant exception could be characters from Star Trek Enterprise. Now, since Origins is set after Enterprise and focuses on Federation formation, key figures like Captain Archer could theoretically appear as older versions. Scott Bakula's character played a crucial role in founding the Foundation, making him a natural fit for the story Origin wants to tell. Supporting characters like Jeffrey Combs Schran could also appear, pending on the precise timeline, of course. Let's look at the production schedule and filming then. Now, the plot reportedly takes place decades prior to the events in 2009 Star Trek, with Toby Haynes directing the film based on a screenplay by Seth Grahame-Smith, though further details are being kept under wraps. Recent reports indicate filming will begin in the United Kingdom in January 2025, and we have yet to hear about that, suggesting the project is moving forward on schedule. Now, the UK filming location makes sense, given Haynes' background working on British productions like Doctor Who and Sherlock. It also actually provides access to established film infrastructure and experienced crews familiar with science fiction productions. Of course, it makes sense now to look at the Star Trek IV situation. One of the most significant concerns surrounding Origins involves its impact on the long-delayed Star Trek IV. Steve Yockey was writing a new draft of the script by the end of March 2024, when it was expected to be made after the Origins story film, with Paramount wanting lower budgets for the next Star Trek films. The Chris Pine-led Star Trek IV remains in development, while the new film is an origin story set decades before Abrams' 2009 movie. However, after nearly a decade of development hell, with various directors and writers coming and going, fans have legitimate concerns about whether prioritizing Origins might result in Star Trek IV being permanently shelved. The Kelvinverse crew deserves a proper conclusion to their story arc. And listen, many fans worry that Origins' success or failure could determine whether that actually happens. Paramount's track record with Star Trek IV doesn't inspire confidence, despite official statements that it remains in active development. So let's now take a look at the franchise integration strategy with Star Trek. Star Trek Origins won't exist in isolation from the broader franchise ecosystem. Strange New Worlds Season 3 will hit Paramount Plus in 2025, possibly in the early part of the year, as the series is a massive hit with critics and audiences. The timing could allow for coordinated marketing and storytelling opportunities. Now, Paramount has historically excelled at cross-promotion between its Trek properties. The release strategy might incorporate tie-ins with ongoing streaming series, creating multimedia events that reinforce the franchise's interconnected nature. Now, this approach makes business sense, as the streaming shows have rebuilt Star Trek's audience and proven that there's sustained demand for new content, box office expectations, and challenges. As the first Star Trek film in nearly a decade, Origins faces unique challenges in the current theatrical landscape. The movie must appeal to both longtime fans and newcomers while competing against established blockbuster franchises like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film's success will likely determine Star Trek's future on the big screen. Strong performance could kickstart a new series exploring different Trek eras, while disappointing results, well, they might push the franchise back to streaming exclusivity. The stakes are particularly high given the investment in securing high-profile creative talent and, of course, the symbolic importance of Star Trek's theatrical return. Script development and story structure. Recent reports suggest the script could be approved by the end of the year, indicating development is progressing smoothly. Graham Smith's background in genre-blending projects like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies suggests he understands how to take familiar concepts and present them in fresh ways while respecting source material. The focus on Federation formation provides rich material for political drama, examining how different species overcome mistrust and prejudice to build something greater than the sum of their parts. This thematic approach feels particularly relevant to contemporary audiences, dealing with similar questions about cooperation and unity. So let's take a look at the technical and creative considerations. Haynes' experience directing Andor demonstrates his ability to handle complex political narratives within established science fiction universes. His work on that series showed how to balance intimate character moments with epic scope, skills that will be essential for a Star Trek film attempting to cover the Federation's formation. This decision to set the story decades before the 2009 film provides creative advantages while avoiding direct comparisons to the Kelvinverse cast. This approach allows the film to establish its own identity while remaining connected to broader Trek continuity. So let's look at the release timeline and market positioning. The 2025 target release date positions Origins strategically in the entertainment calendar. The film will need to find its place among other major releases while capitalizing on renewed interest in the Star Trek brand generated by successful streaming series. Paramount's approach suggests confidence in the project's commercial potential. The studio's investment in high-profile talent and theatrical release strategy indicates they view Origins as more than just a fan service project, but as a potential franchise launcher capable of attracting mainstream audiences. So let's look towards the future now. Star Trek Origins represents a crucial test for the franchise's theatrical viability. The film must prove that Star Trek can successfully return to cinemas after 80 years, while setting up potential sequels exploring different eras of Trek history. The project's success or failure will likely influence Paramount's broader strategy for the franchise, determining whether future Trek films focus on original stories like Origins or return to established character dynamics like the proposed Star Trek IV. The decision to explore Federation formation suggests confidence that Star Trek's themes of cooperation, exploration, and optimism about the future still resonate with contemporary audiences. Now, whether Origins succeeds in bringing Star Trek back to theatrical prominence remains to be seen, but the project represents an ambitious attempt to expand the franchise's cinematic scope while honouring its foundational themes and values. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Live long and prosper. Bye!